Tataki is a Japanese term which translates literally as beaten and pounded. A little violent, but it can also mean not beaten and pounded, but really more refers to the idea of a seared piece of tuna often, beef sometimes, beef today, and then the interior is raw. At the restaurant, we do this dish, but I have 9 or 10 cooks making it with me. Today, it's me and you. The ideal is about like that.
Okay.
That's ideal. And this is nice and tall now. I think we might want to like put a little tiny bit of like oil to make that glisten right there. Glisten. Just a little dab. I don't want it floating in oil. Just
put it on your
not use olive oil. Don't use peanut oil. We're not cooking. We're garnishing. Just a little bit. Make it okay. Then you make it glisten. Yeah, so when you go from order to fire, you move down here.
Yes.
And so you don't have to block your knees. You know, you can always fold.
There you go.
Is this your slaw?
Yes, chef.
Why is it half and half?
I was told to keep it separated.
And then what?
Until it's finalized. When I'm ready to sell. Yes, chef.
Okay. Good afternoon. 24 hours and a whole lot of exciting changes and advances in the plating and the flavors. So this is I think we're a little further along than yesterday in terms of you all being able to see the food and get a better notion of the food. I am going to talk. Carlos is going to probably add some additional commentary. We're starting with tapas, then we'll move to first plates, then the main plates. And we're gonna go fast. We have to go fast because guests are gonna be here at 5 o'clock and they're excited. Okay, the charred chilled beef tenderloin tataki with the ginger soy dressing and sun chips right here. Yeah. Chef Norman, if you're calling me. All right, take your pictures, then taste, okay? I mean, it's sort of self-explanatory. It's a cold dish. We say charred and chilled because we sear the beef on the outside and then this thing is served chilled with a ginger soy dressing and the sunchoke chips. We're not going to be able to get drilled down into what is a sunchoke today. That's for tomorrow. Now, this is a little different than the way we do in the restaurant, but I love making different things different ways. So let's go ahead and make this with this tea. This is a tea from the Fujian province of China, Lapsang Souchong tea, and it's smoky. And the reason it's smoky is that they actually have these big rooms where they put the leaves in and set fires in these rooms. And those fires impregnate the tea leaves with this smoky essence. Fantastic. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this ancient Cuisinart and just grind it up a little bit, just to distribute that nicely. And then I have a kimchi spice mix, which has a little bit of a salty nature to it. And that's nice because we have the smokiness here, the saltiness here. And if you can't find this, just look for something in the market that's gonna give you that Asian profile because Tataki, remember the name of it, the Japanese side? Now here's some sugar. Spice rubs and sugar go together almost always. And again, we're going smoky, savory, sweet. And the reason that we're doing that is because you get that balance of flavors, the circular flavor profile. I call it the Ferris wheel of flavors. And I guess from working at a carnival, that kind of comes to my mind. That was a long time ago. All right, here we go. Spice rub. Just go ahead. Actually, I can leave it right in this mortar and pestle. Now we've got the beef. Beautiful filet mignon, Chateaubriand, some people might call it. But you see here, it's a little bit larger on this end than down here to the tail. And that means when I go to cook it, it's gonna have 2 different temperatures. And I don't want that. So I'm gonna square this off and make myself a nice, equally sized piece of meat. What I'm looking for is where on the meat, I'm gonna be pretty much the same size here as here. And this will be my snack later. And here, so we're gonna go ahead and take some oil. To get the spice rub to stick to the meat, you need a little suntan lotion. Just like that. And you don't want too much. Just enough to cause the mixture to adhere. And go ahead and put that on there. And you wanna put that on there liberally. I mean, do not hold back. Just flip it around. And you can let this sit on here for a half an hour if you would like to have some of the prep done before you go to sear it. But we don't have a half an hour. We're making food for today. See how I did on the ends too? Now my griddle is nice and hot. So I'm gonna get this working like so. Over to here. Remember, tataki. We're talking about suddenness. The high heat's important because we do not want to cook this meat anywhere past rare. We're going to serve it chilled. If your guests want it more cooked, that's fine too, but I want to present it rare to medium rare. So nice high heat. We're going to look for some smoke to pop up. Drop it away from you. This one will take less time because it's smaller. Drop it away from you, and I'm going to go wash my hands. I'll be right back. What you're looking for is a nice charred exterior. That's what we're looking for the whole way. So we're gonna just turn the meat, turn the meat, and turn the meat, but you don't have to stay still. We're gonna make a dressing while we do things. Look at that. What you're catching is the aroma. That Lapsang Souchong tea, the smokiness, it just goes perfectly with meat. When you think about meat cooking, I think smoke's one of the things you're always looking for. So I'm gonna come back and turn that a little bit more. Now we're gonna make a dressing with the items out in front of us. Now I know, what are all these things? If you were to be at my house with me, you'd be seeing something like this, only about 5 times more, because I love to have all these things in front of me. And then as I come to the cutting board, I went, wow, I wouldn't have thought of that, or that, or that. So a little bit of this, like for instance, this is something that's fish sauce, really creates a whole new level of umami. So I'm gonna make a simple dressing, vinaigrette also is another word for it, with some ginger and some soy. Now for the ginger, you can just chop it a little bit because we're gonna know that it's there and not get it into our mouth in a whole big piece. This is a beautiful soy that I love working with. Shoyu is actually a Japanese word for soy. So the first item I put in there was some olive oil. And then now the fish sauce. This is strong. Don't be too liberal with it. So, I mean, it's like a couple drops, like maybe a hot sauce would be strong in that way. Speaking of hot sauce, this is a chili oil. So I've got oil in the form of an extra virgin olive oil. I got chili oil. Not too much, because balance is the goal. Now, a vinaigrette or a dressing always, always, always has acidity. Here's one of my favorite ways, rice wine vinegar. You're gonna see me do this a lot when I'm cooking. I'm smelling it. I'm not smelling it because I'm worried. I'm smelling it because it's helping me understand the ratio and the relationship into the dishes. I can sort of taste it as I smell it. Like that. One of the most wonderful oils in the world is sesame oil. This should be in your pantry. Again, it doesn't take much, but it provides a huge amount of flavor. And so now I'm hearing that meat talk to me. So let's turn it. The little guy, I'll put that on the off side of the griddle. The big one, I just want to sear the exterior on the ends. The reason I want to do the exterior as well as the circumference is I want that char to be equal no matter where. When I slice the steak later on, you're going to see that the char is going all the way around. If I just didn't do the ends, I wouldn't like that as much. So this is still very, very rare. I'm gonna leave it on here for a few more minutes. Meanwhile, I'm gonna go ahead and I've made a little noodle mixture with some somen noodles, and I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna dress those noodles with it, and I'm gonna cook some shiitake mushrooms to go in with those noodles. Just mix it up. You're making a vinaigrette. Whisk, bowl, ingredients, boom, you're there. Okay, what I'm going to do is put somen noodles into here. I have better control by adding the noodles into here. I don't want to put so many noodles in that I don't like the ratio anymore. If I drop that into there, I don't have that decision left to me. It may take them all. Let's just make sure. I want to taste that vinaigrette. I don't want to have the noodles bland. For our noodle salad to be as refreshing as I want it to be, I'm gonna go ahead and put this back in the refrigerator so that it's chilled. We slice the steak, it's gonna be going over those chilled noodles, and it's gonna make it so much more simple. To keep this meat from being overcooked, take it off now. Whenever you're cooking meat, chicken, pork chops, steaks, even fish, you wanna let it rest, because there's gonna be something called the ride time. That means that the interior temperature of the meat is going to still continue to ascend, even if it's off the fire. So you might feel it or stick a meat thermometer in there and go, it's there, it's right. But remember, it's gonna go up maybe 4 or 5 degrees sitting there. Oh wow, I almost forgot, my treat. So take this little fella. Who knows, I might make a steak sandwich out of that. Look at that Lapsang Souchong rub, baby. Okay, now we're gonna cook some shiitakes, and we'll set this in the fridge to let it chill up. Shiitakes were probably the first kind of exotic mushroom I began to work with after the button mushrooms entered my life. Here's the caps. The stems are great for stocks. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to cook these, just some simple olive oil, salt, and pepper. I'm gonna clean this grill, which will be a dream, because you just take this and get rid of that char from the beef tataki and get it out of your way. This thing here is where it's all gonna go, just like so. I'm adding 2 oils because one is capable of high heat and one is capable of high flavor. Extra virgin after I do the canola. Drop the shiitakes on there. A little salt and pepper. That's all you need. The flavor of the shiitakes are really what you want to have be the star. And because, remember, the noodles are dressed in that dressing we made with the ginger, the soy, and all these other things. So we'll kick these around to soften them and heighten their flavor. And I'm gonna put the dome on here, convect the heat around there. Chilled noodle dishes in Japan are gigantic, and people are starting to understand them more here because they're so refreshing. Some people think that actually cold food is more nuanced, you can catch more flavors than hot food. I really can't argue with that. When I think of a properly made vichyssoise or a guacamole, I can say, hey, those are cold dishes that really rock. So as soon as the shiitakes come off the griddle, I'm gonna let them cool down here in a bowl, which you can do the same thing. And then I'll mix them into the noodles so that we have that temperature range we want, which is cold. While the noodles are chilling, let's make some garnishes happen. So I want color. I want a combination of colors, but also it's never just for color. I think that's a crutch when people do that. And chefs do that all the time. Makes me a little nuts. I want to make sure that whatever those garnishes are, they fit the dish. Saw some beautiful little tomatoes in the market. So I'm gonna go ahead and just slice a few up. Not a lot, we're never gonna use this much. Not a lot of different things, not a lot of different noise. We have a beautiful plate, and that's part of it. I think the garnish is really something that you gotta give more thought to. It is, the adage always is, we eat with our eyes first, and we do. So you wanna be thoughtful about that. You have to imagine, like in your head, in your mind, see the dish, and then see how the whole thing's gonna look. I'm making up my mind still at this moment, really. So I'm gonna look for some scallions as well. You saw that I salted those tomatoes right away because I wanna lay down that flavor. And then I want these beautiful green onions, AKA scallions, to scatter over the top of the dark meat and give myself a little punch, give the dish a little punch with that onion flavor, mostly the white. Just like so, a little bit more with just the white. I find that the white part is a little sweeter. This is a little bit more pungent, but you want to use both. Now, these are just simple button mushrooms, and I'm gonna cut them really thin. So I'm gonna just take off the end. I really want an equal sized garnish, just like about like that. And then one more. Take that guy off, and boom, 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 boom. I'm gonna go ahead and put them here. We're gonna share the bowl with the scallions because that lets me make up my mind as I'm garnishing the totality of the dish. About like that. And I'm gonna leave the tomatoes right there. Okay, now I'm ready to slice the meat. All right, our noodles, our meat, our cutting board, the chef's snack, still here. And I'm actually going to use the chef's snack to see what the temperature is like on the interior of the beef. So let's go ahead and slice some of that. This is much smaller than this, so it could be a little bit more cooked, but it's going to be a frame of reference. That's more cooked than I want it to be for the big guy, but it's fine for my snack. So let's go ahead and slice. When you slice, ride back and forth, like so. Hold, my left hand is holding that down quite firmly. And if you're not happy with the sharpness of your knife, like I'm not at this moment, I'm gonna switch the knives. That's why we have a range of knives. They all should be sharp, but they're not gonna be all necessarily as sharp on the same day. So here we go. This one's a little sharper. Here we have the char on the outside, the very nice and rare, medium rare on the inside. And I'm gonna take and give myself the prime pieces. These 4 pieces are the most beautiful side of this thing. I'm gonna take the noodles and shiitakes and lay them down in my dish. And this dish has a little bit of a bowl shape to it, which will help catch any of the extra dressing. So go ahead, and noodles are chilled just the way we want them to be. The shiitakes don't love hanging out sort of equally mixed, but that's okay because they're gonna all go there. And when your guests eat, they're gonna get the shiitakes just fine. Scatter them out on top of the noodles, like so. Now you really wanna stare at this thing, really look at it, and continue to imagine what it's gonna look like at the end, because you're making a painting of food. This is where the garnishes really come in too. So I'm gonna go ahead and lay the beef down. I'm gonna leave so I can see that edge. And here. And this is a buffet kind of a dish. This would be more than you would ever put down for a single person. So this goes in the center of the table, and people can take a fork and knife and pick up a piece of the meat and then some of the noodles and just have at it. So here I'm looking, I'm thinking. I've got my tomatoes, different colors, different shapes. The colors are starting to really pop, come alive. This is the moment where it's really becoming the final look of the dish. These mushrooms are raw because I want them nice and white in contrast to the darkness of the beef. I mean, I went to the market to see what was available. Little tomatoes, button mushrooms, and then scallions, really very, very simple. And lastly, we're gonna put a little orange down too. Orange and beef actually go together really nicely. You see how you take the grater and you roll the orange? Some people would go like this. Really, you don't want to do that. And that oil, you're gonna see like a shower of volatile oils coming off that. And those oils have a ton of flavor, just like that. And that is, folks, our tataki of beef with noodle salad, shiitake mushrooms, ginger soy vinaigrette. Now my favorite part, eating this dish. And we're cooking here. This is not in the fancy dining room, so I'm gonna go ahead and do it right on the cutting board. I wanna get a bite with that exterior spice rub on it. Smoky, some sweetness, obviously beefiness. Now in a restaurant, one of the biggest differences is the staff. You've got people doing all different kinds of jobs. It's called the brigade system, and you're asking folks, or guiding folks to do different jobs based on their level of experience. Somebody's gonna cook these noodles. Somebody's gonna cut those vegetables. Somebody's gonna make the spice rub. At home, that somebody is probably gonna be you or whoever you're hanging out with. I mean, really, the somen noodles and the dressing, that is fire. I really love that. So that's not an afterthought. The noodles are just as important as the beef. Our beef tataki today, chilled, something that you can do a lot of prep for in advance, and then make this beautiful thing and serve it to your friends. And they are going to love it. Promise. I came to Key West for the first time after a party in Champaign-Urbana. I was miserable, had a broken relationship with a girl that I was so in love with, but she was not so in love with me. And my best friend's older brother happened to have come down here to paint houses and set up a life down here. And I was like, at the end of that party, I'm like to these two guys who are brothers, I said, you want to go to Key West? And they're like, when? I said, well, how about tonight? They had a van, so they said, sure, let's go. So we packed up a few belongings, and got in the van, 36 hours, we pulled into town. The next night, my buddy said, let's go to Mallory Square. I'm like, what's Mallory Square? And I had no idea. So we came down here, and there were all these people who were gathering at this time of night. And it turns out that they were here to watch the sun go down. And I was like, that's pretty cool. I mean, there's no other reason to be here but to watch this natural, mystical thing called sundown. And at the end, when the sun finally drifted below the horizon and this orange glow spread out over the world, I'm getting goosebumps just again, remembering those moments of being here and being in Key West and being at Mallory and being at Sunset and thinking, you know what? I might want to live here. So I don't know what your dream is. I didn't know what my dream was until I got here, and my life was transformed. So follow your dream. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Today is the day to take action.